This is the story of the most murderous and Reverend Thomas Hunter in the year 1700. And he was ordained minister, newly ordained, and he went to work for an alderman in England. Or it might have been Scotland, I can't remember which one it is. Anyways, he went to work for the alderman. And he was supposed to be the in-house preacher for the alderman. Well, the alderman had a wife and 3 children, and he had a maid. Well, the reverend took an interest in the maid. So one day, all 3 children went up to his bedroom, and the door was open, and they looked in the bedroom, and they saw the reverend boning the maid. And the children were so upset that they, at dinner that night, they told their parents what they saw the reverend and the maid doing. Well, the alderman was so upset that he immediately fired the maid. But he didn't fire the reverend, because the reverend profusely begged his forgiveness and said something like that. You don't know why it happened, and he certainly wouldn't happen again. Anyways, the alderman kept the reverend on in employment. So one day, the alderman's family was called away to have a dinner outside of town. And the reverend, though, in the meantime, he was very, very angry with the children. He hated the children for they snitched on him, and he kept a deep hatred. So it turns out that the alderman took his family, his wife, and his daughter to this dinner outside of town. But the reverend pleaded, "Oh, please let your 2 young boys stay with me." He says, "Okay, we'll let you do that." And all the time, the reverend was plotting the murder of all 3 children, but he couldn't get to the girl she took off with the family for this dinner. But he had the 2 boys in his possession, small boys, and he took them out for a walk in the field, which was his custom to do. And then he got them both in the field. He says, "You remember, you boys, how you got me in trouble with your father? I'm going to kill you for that." And the boys said, "Oh," they started running away. Well, he caught one, and he put him down on the ground. He stuck his knee in his chest, and he took a penknife, and he slit his throat. And then he chased down the other boy and did the same to him. Well, he thought he was alone in his field. But what he was going to do himself after these 2 murders, he was going to go down to the river and drown himself. But it just happened to be that a neighbor was walking on the hilltop and saw all this happen, the murders and who did it. And he went screaming for help, help. So anyways, help came, and they caught the reverend, and they put him in jail. And they had, back then it was a 3-day trial for murder. And he was immediately convicted of killing the 2 boys. And but he was a reverend, and he was to be hanged. And they did hang him, but before they hung him, he cried out to the entire crowd, "There is no God. And if there was a God, I would have no use for him anyway." And this was his dying words before he went on to eternity.